out to the store or go to the gym without having this person show up.
And she said that the person that was following her had
Bro,
eyes
come on, don't do that shit, bro.
penetrate
Come on.
you. They can see
Bro, I'm
right
not
through
looking
you.
at that shit no more.
On
I'm
top
not.
of that, solved after 23 years.
Bro,
The reason
nah,
is
this shit is creepy as fuck. What the fuck is that?
she's an LAPD detective. The police think
What?
she killed Sherri Rasmussen, the wife of John Ruetten, a devoted husband who adores her. But on the night of February 24th, 1986, things would take
Hey,
a
y'all
turn
can see
for
this
the worse.
cool?
You didn't harm your wife, did you, John?
Good. You got everything going. I mean,
Hey, so do you, hey, John, John.
Wait, can y'all see
First
this?
thing you saw.
Let me move my face cam, bro.
I knew
Hold on, chat. My face cam probably too big.
right away that she was dead.
After John claims he found his wife, Sherri, dead on the floor, investigators turn to a
Damn.
polygraph to see if he's telling the truth.
Now, John, she's not having any problems with an ex-boyfriend or you with an ex-girlfriend.
No.
Has anybody been hitting on her, following her home, or anything like that at all?
No.
After the interrogation,
What
the
the
results show John
fuck?
failed the polygraph, but with no concrete evidence, he's set free. For over 20 years, it remains a cold case. No arrests.
Wait.
Nobody knows.
So he failed it, gang? If he failed it, don't that mean... Never mind, gang. Never mind. Because clearly they
What
set him
really
free.
happened to Sherri. But after all this time, Sherri's father becomes obsessed with discovering what happened to his daughter. As the last person to have spoken with her, he knows that their final conversation may hold the key to solving the case.
She said that the person that was following her had eyes that could penetrate you. They can see right through you.
According to Sherri's
What?
father, John's ex-girlfriend, Stephanie, an LAPD detective, matches the description Sherri has given. Investigators are stunned
Bro.
because Stephanie
I can't even lie, bro. She looks crazy, folks. Like, that shit
Is one of
creepy
their
as
own.
fuck. Oh, God.
Please have a
This shit
seat.
scaring me, folks.
So, this is, I didn't want to bring this up in front of your squad, but
I mean, if you guys
She
claim
look
that I'm
creepy,
then,
folks. I
no,
probably got
I
to turn
got a
on the
problem,
light.
you know, with that.
I'm in this bitch by
Is
myself.
that what you're saying?
Woo!
Trying to figure out what happened.
Woo! Come on, King. This ain't supposed to be no scary movie shit.
Los Angeles, February 24th, 1986, 6 p.m. John Ruetten returns home from work. As he approaches the townhouse, the garage door is open and his wife's car is missing. Odd, but Sherri runs the nursing wing at Glendale Adventist, and emergencies are common. John climbs the steps. The front door is ajar. He pushes it open. Inside, on the living room floor, lies Sherri in a pool of blood. He picks up the phone and calls 911.
It's kind of an eerie
What?
feeling
What?
to be here after
Bro, I'ma just tell y'all what happened, gang. His ex, the dude ex-wife definitely killed her, gang. I'm not gonna lie.
30 plus, almost 40 years.
Cause them eyes, folks, them
As
eyes
I walked
tell it
in,
all.
I saw Sherri Rasmussen on the ground. She had been covered with a towel, and one of the paramedics raised the towel for me to see her face, and she had considerable trauma to her face. This is actually a murder.
The scene suggests a break-in, with stereo equipment scattered all across the floor. Without doing a complete examination, the officer notices that someone has tied up Sherri, bitten her deep on the left forearm, brutally struck her on the head with various objects, and shot her 3 times in the abdomen. She also left deep claw marks on the front door in some sort of desperate struggle. As he outlines all the gruesome details to his colleagues, the policeman
What
can't
the
help but hear
fuck?
quiet sobbing coming from the adjacent dining room.
I noticed John Ruetten. He was sitting at the table and he seemed to be sobbing. His crying should have been more extreme, with his wife laying there on the floor dead.
When asked about his security system, John admits he forgot to set the alarm that morning and isn't sure if he locked the door. He explains that
Wait.
Sherri was still in bed and that the
Never
neighborhood
mind,
felt
now I
safe.
ain't even gonna.
As suspicious elements began to add up, the police couldn't help but question Why would
I
the
low-key
burglar pick
think.
a townhouse right in the middle of the street?
Hold on.
Burglars
I low-key think he was in on it. I ain't even gonna lie.
don't
I'm just put it
usually
out there
pick
like
a
that.
place 5 condos from the street. They want to get away. They pick something next to the street. It's just strange that they would pick this place. I thought to myself, this is a burglary?
Uncle John and Aunt Sherri are spending Christmas with Rachel on her first Christmas.
Sherri was all about family. Sherri was my big sister. She was my best friend. She would always encourage people, and she always exuded confidence.
I am the oldest sister of Sherri Rasmussen. My dad had called, and he told me that Sherri had been killed. I just started screaming. I couldn't believe it.
Sherri Rasmussen, a young woman with a bright future ahead of her, gifted in school, she entered college at 16, skipping 2 grades. Her father had hoped she would pursue a career in medicine, but Sherri became a nurse instead, convinced it would allow her to balance her career with the family life she longed for. By the age of 23, she had already obtained her master's degree and was teaching at UCLA.
A very good listening technique is while you're doing it, the eye contact. That gives the nonverbal clue to the patient that you are, in fact, listening.
Everywhere, people complimented Sherri for her intelligence, calming presence, and natural leadership. By her late 20s, she had already become the director of nursing at Glendale Adventist, and in the spring of 1984, she met her future husband, John Ruetten.
I first remember hearing about John when Sherri called me and told me that she had met somebody at a party. 3 weeks later, I went out there and met John for the first time. I asked John, how did you meet Sherri? And he told me that he saw Sherri from across the room. She had this beautiful smile and laugh. Just seeing him say that and hearing him, I was happy for Sherri.
They looked great together. They were affectionate, and I loved John because my sister loved John.
However, Sherri's dad, Nels, pushes aside these feelings when he receives the phone call announcing Sherri's passing, as it wasn't from John himself, but from his father.
Telling me that Sherri had been murdered. And so I told his dad, I want to talk to John. And he said, John doesn't feel like talking.
When the Rasmussens arrive at the police station, they finally reunite with John, but, to their surprise, he still refuses to talk, insisting that the police won't allow him. For them, the exchange is unsettling, and John's secretive attitude is difficult to read. The Rasmussens wonder if this is the reaction of a man in shock, or if he's holding back to protect himself or someone else.
I thought his behavior was off.
Bro, I low-key think he was he was messing with his ex, and he wanted to get her up out of here, folks, to go back and mess with his ex, if that makes sense, basically.
He wouldn't talk to us. He was more concerned about himself than about Sherri.
Basic homicide 101. Look at the spouse. It's in her own home. Her husband had just left her that morning. She hasn't been anywhere. You don't have to be a detective to think, I wonder if he did it.
As John is escorted into an interrogation room by a detective, Nels ponders their exchange, or lack thereof. The 51-year-old is sure his son-in-law is lying because Sherri's family, friends, and colleagues all know that in the year leading up to her murder, something disturbing was happening. A strange figure in disguise was constantly stalking her.
She mentioned she had been followed 5 different times in the last week.
This person kept appearing in places that Sherri would go. She couldn't go out to the store or go to the gym without having this person show up.
And she said that the person that was following her had
Bro,
eyes
come on, don't do that shit,
could
folks. Come
penetrate
on.
you. They can see
Bro, I'm
right
not
through
looking
you.
at that shit no more.
On
I'm
top
not.
of that,
I'm
John's
done.
ex-girlfriend also
You gotta
began
stop
harassing
doing that shit.
Sherri after their wedding. A colleague of hers witnessed
Hold on,
these
chat.
encounters.
She told me that John...
Y'all wait. Y'all gotta wait. They point to this bitch eyes, folks. This looks scary.
friend had come to her office at the hospital, dressed provocatively.
And confronted Sherri about John and said that if she couldn't have John, nobody could.
As detectives
What?
questioned John,
Gang, they said Wait, let me go back.
John's ex-girlfriend had come to her office at the hospital, dressed
Came to her
provocatively.
came to her office, game, not even dressed in uniform.
And confronted Sherri about John and said that if she couldn't have John, nobody could.
As detectives question John, another officer speaks with the Rasmussens. Nels struggles to process what he's hearing. According to the authorities, thieves killed his daughter in a failed robbery where they stole nothing but her purse and car.
It wasn't a robbery. No, they couldn't convince me of it.
Nels immediately starts talking about the stalking and harassment his daughter suffered during the months leading up to her murder. Still, the officer in front of him retorts that, without a name, there's nothing they can do.
Sherri never disclosed a name for the ex-girlfriend. It would have been nice had we
Bro,
had
it's
that.
that
We would have
bitch.
shared
That's
that
who
with
it
the
is,
detectives.
folks.
Nonetheless,
Y'all can see it in her
Nels follows
eyes,
up with
gang.
one alarming incident where John's ex-girlfriend broke into Sherri's townhouse and started fighting with his daughter in her own living room before running away.
One of the original detectives in this case told me personally they had never heard any of those alleged incidents, and none of them were entered into the official case record known as the murder book.
I just want to thank you all for coming, and I want you to know that Sherri was the best professional in the world. She was the best wife that anybody could ever have, and she was the best sister and daughter. She wanted to make everybody happy.
This is the last time John ever speaks publicly about Sherri. In the audience, Nels Rasmussen sits filled with grief and anger. A month has passed, and the police haven't moved an inch. Nels doesn't know what John has told them, but they never consider his son-in-law a suspect. On the contrary, the police stick to their burglar theory, even stating that the Rasmussens had been watching too much TV when Nels and his family tried to convince them to investigate Sherri's stalker and John's ex-girlfriend.
The first 5 weeks, I mentioned it so many times that he kind of lost his cool with me and saying that there was no need to go there because there was nothing there.
The next month, less than a mile from Sherri's townhouse, an actual burglary took place.
Wait, so how are they supposed to know it was nothing there if they, like, that
Women
shit's
coming home
stupid.
was surprised
That
when
shit
two men
dumb.
inside. One ran for the door, while the other pointed a revolver at her.
Sherri Rasmussen was killed with a gun. So the question is, are they the same burglars who murdered Sherri? A police artist talked to the woman at the home who said there were 2 young males, and the police artist drew sketches.
Same neighborhood, same time, same weapon. However, this time, no one was hurt. Either the police were actually onto something, or fate was playing a cruel trick on the Rasmussens. Convinced the burglary and Sherri's murder are linked, detectives plaster the city with the suspects' faces. Weeks go by with no leads, then months. The police eventually find the 2 items the thieves stole from Sherri.
Bro, imagine being, like, the killer, bro, Sherri killer, and just seeing, yo, like, that look just like her. How they don't know this Sherri, gang?
Police were actually onto something, or fate was playing a cruel trick on the Rasmussens. Convinced the burglary and Sherri's murder are linked, detectives plaster the city with the suspects' faces. Weeks go by with no leads, then months. The police eventually find the 2 items the thief stole from Sherri's property, her car and purse, both cleaned free of prints. And then, silence. For almost 15 years, the Rasmussens have remained entirely in the dark.
I had come to the conclusion in
Wait.
my mind that it was never going
It
to be
said
solved. and it was something that
23 years later, it was caught.
of what
23
happened.
years later.
In 1991, Nels Rasmussen is back home in Arizona, still carrying the weight of Sherri's unresolved murder. Determined to get justice for his daughter, he follows every development in forensic science, watching closely as DNA testing begins to revolutionize the field. Around the same time, the case's lead detective retires, handing over his stalled investigation to someone else. For Nels, it feels like an opening. He wastes no time and contacts a new man in charge with a plan he believes could break the case.
Nels Rasmussen, reading about DNA and the advances that's brought to criminology, offers to pay for DNA testing, and the department says no.
Correct. It's just not the way the quote-unquote business end of the department works.
Before Nels can convince anyone at the LAPD to give his idea a shot, something very strange happens. Various pieces of evidence related to the case mysteriously disappear. Not only that, but someone trims the murder book of half its contents on the premise that it has grown too large for the cold case office storage room. The mishandling of the case is becoming increasingly difficult for the Rasmussens to bear, who continue to try to get in touch with the police or speak with someone, anyone, who will take them seriously.
As a father, he had felt a responsibility to protect her. And the only way that in her death he could protect her was to find out who killed her. He would constantly re-dissect, the information that he knew.
For the next 10 years, every time the case changes hands, the family flies from Tucson to Los Angeles to meet the new detectives. And each time, Nels and his 2 remaining daughters return home heartbroken by their lack of progress.
They put us in an interrogation room, and they came in with a little skinny folder about this big. They did meet with us, but it was also more of it was like a show.
It's now November 2001. The LAPD can no longer ignore advances in forensic science and establishes a cold case unit dedicated to DNA profiling. Sherri's file, now 15 years old, lands on the desk of an overextended detective with no time to treat it properly. Instead of letting it gather dust, the case is handed off to a criminalist, Jennifer Francis. She begins combing through the boxes of evidence herself and eventually stumbles across a detailed entry about a bite mark Sherri received during the struggle with her killer.
It was a alligator clutch.
Strangely, the file claims investigators sampled only one blood type, but bite marks should always yield 2 profiles, one from the victim and one from the perpetrator. The entry seemed to suggest Sherri might have bitten herself.
She cleaned it.
A theory Francis finds baffling. She knows the original detective failed to recover prints and other key evidence from the scene, but surely someone from his forensic team had swabbed the wound. With her boss's help, she digs through boxes upon boxes of paperwork until she uncovers an old property log from 1986, listing the crucial swab she has been searching for.
I checked with our evidence room. They didn't have it. I looked at our property reports. It's not booked.
How could that happen?
Incompetence.
That happen a lot?
Yes.
But Francis refuses to give up. She calls every coroner in the city until she finally gets a lead. After spending 6 hours combing through the morgue's freezers, an LA County coroner informs her he had found a torn envelope with its fading label damaged. Against all odds, the glass tube containing the swab was still inside, and in one piece. She immediately runs a battery of tests, and the result points to an unknown female, directly contradicting the theory of a male duo. Further down the file, Francis also learns about Nels Rasmussen and his numerous attempts to inform the police about Sherri's stalker and John's ex-girlfriend. Francis's own theory begins to take shape. What if the two were one and the same, and she was the one who bit and killed Sherri? But when Francis brings this to the detective, he dismisses it outright and adds one detail Francis has yet to learn. John's ex-girlfriend is not just any woman. She's an LAPD detective.
Well, this
Bro,
plays
I'm
to
tired of seeing this fucking
favorite
picture,
conspiracy
gang. That shit is
theory,
scary.
cops cover for other cops. No matter what, you're out of your mind. Did you tell the detectives that John's ex-girlfriend was a member of the LAPD?
I get chills every time I see that shit.
Why do you think it was that detectives didn't look at John's ex-girlfriend?
I think it was because she was a police officer.
Why can't that just be sloppy police work? Why does that have to be a cover-up? Why can't that be just sort of tunnel vision and a rush to judgment?
They're more intelligent than that. You gotta give them more credit than that.
Unbeknownst to Nels, his only ally at this time is within the LAPD. Jennifer Francis relentlessly pushes the case, first to the cold case unit, then to the scientific division, later to robbery homicide, and even to internal affairs. Yet, everywhere she goes, supervisors turn their attention not to the evidence, but to her. They question her mental state, claiming she's too emotional, paranoid, and obsessed with Sherri's case. Soon,
Bro,
Francis is ordered into
that's
mandatory
crazy as
counseling
he had to
with
say.
an LAPD-sanctioned therapist, a move that, inside the department, frames her as unstable and potentially unfit for duty. Even worse, the sessions aren't at all concerned with her well-being, but rather with what she knows about the case and who she has talked to. For Francis, this is no longer a matter of paranoia or conspiracy. This feels like retaliation. A deputy DA calls her crazy, colleagues treat her as a liability, and systematically push her off major cases. Around the lab, people belittle her, telling her to get a hobby. What she doesn't realize is that she is retracing the same path as Nels Rasmussen, who, decades earlier, had also been ridiculed by the authorities, despite being the only one able to see through the conspiracy. Then, in November 2009, everything changes. Frances receives a call from robbery homicide. A detective named James Nuttall is asking about her findings. She has been waiting more than 5 years for this moment. The Rasmussens, 23. But fear holds her back. She feels like she can't trust anyone anymore. She tells the detective that she doesn't believe it was a burglary and that the evidence may have been tampered with, but she doesn't share her theory with him. Yet Nuttall has her results right in front of him and quickly puts 2 and 2 together. He knows that the only DNA not matching Sherri's belongs to another female, and has already read dozens of letters Nell sent over the years, urging police to investigate John's ex-girlfriend. From this point on, the detective decides to form a secret circle within the homicide department, with Jennifer, who came to trust him over the first few months of the investigation, himself, and 3 other detectives. Nuttall sets out to prove once and for all that someone from within their ranks violently attacked and killed Sherri Rasmussen inside her own home in 1986.
When they said it was a police officer, I went, you're kidding. Absolutely kidding. A police officer committed this crime. I couldn't imagine that.
Nuttall and Frances don't waste a minute. Digging deep within the case files, they find John's original 1986 interview with the first detective in charge of the case, who, to say the least, was quick to jump to conclusions and not very insistent towards the man who should have been his first suspect.
Now, John, what is your wife's name? Sherri. You didn't find the wife, did you?
Let everything go.
Hey, hey, John. Need you to be careful with Betty. She's not having any problems with an ex-boyfriend or you with an ex-girlfriend. No. You're a pretty good judge of character. Sir, you have absolutely nothing to do with this. I believe your house was burglarized today. Once the person's or that person who was inside, that's what they were trying to steal your stereo. Listen here. Been to it for one. John, things happened, okay? And Sherri came downstairs. She surprised me. And she was hurt. She was shot. Oh, John, trip over 50 for this person's home. Little faith in me. Very successful. Very, very successful.
To Nuttall, something's off with the interview. Why did the detective jump to conclusions so fast? Why did John Ruetten lie? According to Nels and Sherri's colleague, his ex-girlfriend was quite problematic, and Sherri wasn't afraid to bring it up in conversation. But what really throws Nuttall off is that there's nothing else to listen to. In 23 years of investigations, 3 other detectives reopened the case, but none of them ever considered conducting a second interview with John to ask about Nels's claims. But he knows he won't be the fourth to pass on the idea. He contacts John, who relocated to the Bay Area, remarried, and had children since then, and sets up an interview. From the get-go, he adopts a very different tone, wasting no time to bring up his ex, the story at the hospital, the home invasion, the stalking. He doesn't miss a beat, and even recalls information that had never been recorded in their files until recently.
They said, hey, we got a bite mark here, and that could be a female. You know, and I said, you know, I got to talk to you about Stephanie. And I told him that she went to go see Sherri.
Did you give the name Stephanie Lazarus?
Yeah, I gave him the name, and I said she's a police officer. Do you guys think Stephanie did this?
We have strong suspicion.
One of my concerns
Right.
is that was
She
never,
definitely did.
you know, appears to be recorded.
And we know
I'm not trying to be inflammatory.
There's a certain level of frustration on our part. More should have been documented. We're now forced 23 years later to literally almost start over again because we lack the documentation.
Not only does John give their suspect a name, he also explains that while he and Sherri were engaged, he had been cheating on her with Lazarus, even though he knew she was obsessed with him. In college, when the two were dating, she used to steal his underwear and sneak into his dorm to take
You see, now I was right. I said, bro, they was messing with each other, bro. They was.
Should have been
You see?
frank with her
Trying to tell you.
instead of leading her on, and kept putting fuel to the fire. He tried
Bro,
to
he fucked it up. He got her killed, gang. That's
the
what
information.
he definitely got her
He didn't
killed.
behave as a husband that loved Sherri.
By that point, Lazarus is no longer a police officer, but a full-fledged detective. She's armed, and her office is just down the hall from Nuttall. To make sure nobody intervened with their investigation, as they had with Francis,
what?
the detective decides to send men to follow her.
Nigga, she turned, bro. 23 later, she a detective,
Recover
gang.
anything she throws in the trash. In this endeavor, they recover a used soda cup and send it to Francis, who then confirms that Lazarus's DNA matches the one found on the bite mark. Nuttall then prompted his team to lure her into the LAPD suspect treatment unit, the only place in the building where no guns were allowed, and to falsely claim that they needed her help for an interrogation with a difficult suspect.
Nah, this shit finna get scary. Yo, ex, bitch.
You know, I mean, what's this all about? Well,
She spooked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, again, I mean, what, you know, I don't understand why you're talking about some guy I dated a million years ago.
Well, do you know what happened to his wife?
Yeah, I know she got killed.
Did you ever fight with her?
You mean like we fought?
Yeah. Did you ever duke it out with her?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
You'd remember that, right? That would be pretty.
yeah, I would think so. I
Pretty
mean,
specific, you know,
yeah, like I said, I mean, obviously, you know, I mean.
She just acting nervous, gang.
I mean, what do they think? So like, I fought with her, so now, I mean, I they think, okay, I fought with her, so I'm.
No, gang. Look, you know she did it. She just stuttered and everything, gang.
I mean, come on. I mean, that's insane. I mean, if you guys are claiming that I'm a suspect, then, you know, I got a problem with, you know, with that. Okay? So, you know, if you're doing this as an interrogation.
She number one
I'm a
suspect.
suspect. Well, now I got a problem with, you know, now you're accusing me of this? Is that what you're saying?
Stephanie, you know you have the right to remain silent, you understand?
Yeah.
Anything you say may be used against you in court, you understand? You have the right to the presence of an attorney before and during any questions, you understand? You want to talk to us right now?
No. It's crazy. I'm like in shock. I'm totally
Yeah, bitch. You in shock because you got caught.
They were kind enough to come to our
They
home
caught her ass.
and let my parents know that they had made the arrest. I mean, I cried because I was so excited, number one, that justice for my sister, but also for my dad.
Nels was upset with me, and he was very animated.
Wait, they arrested her? They arrested her?
Detective, where have you been for the last
I mean, they
decade?
did already get the
I had
evidence,
explained this to the
man, but
organization.
they
I had
arrested her?
explained this to your investigators.
He was always diverted. He was told repeatedly that he'd been watching too much TV.
For the first time since Sherri's murder, everyone is on the same side. Jennifer Francis presents her DNA test results and recounts the retaliation she endured within the LAPD. Nels Rasmussen steps forward with the warnings he tried to give from the start and how he was ignored for decades. And John Ruetten, whose testimony had been tampered with and whose contact with Sherri's family was restricted by police, finally speaks openly. Together, they testify.
The fact that Sherri's death occurred because she met and married me brings me to my knees.
Nuttall's investigation
Wait,
takes
what?
4 months. The trial
Wait,
lasts-
that's John now? This is John now? Damn, that nigga grew. He got a whole head of grays.
Brings me to my knees.
Nuttall's investigation takes 4 months. The trial lasts 3 weeks. The jury comes to a conclusion in less than a day. After 26 years of struggle, Sherri and her family finally receive justice.
That's not John.
The jury in the above
Nah,
entitled
that ain't
action
John.
find the defendant, Stephanie Eileen Lazarus, guilty of the crime of murder of Sherri Rasmussen.
It was just like a rush
Guilty,
of
send
relief
that bitch to life.
that
It's over. Relief for my father that he finally was vindicated and he had his answers.
In 2023, Lazarus admits 37
That
years
bitch
too
look
late
crazy.
that she killed Sherri. In exchange for her confession, she's offered a shot at parole. By then, Nels had already passed away, but before his death, he recorded a statement to be used at hearings. The board saw it in 2023, and it will be shown again whenever Lazarus attempts to get released in the future.
If one looks at the damage that she did to my daughter's face, it's almost like she wanted to destroy the beauty that Sherri exuded.
Today, Sherri's legacy continues, not only through her family's long-lasting fight for justice, but also in the lives of the Rasmussens' next generation.
My mom
Nah,
always told me
bro.
stories about when Sherri and her were in nursing school and how.
Nah, that was heavy, yeah. I'm not at the end of the video, you feel me? If you like, comment, subscribe. You feel me? The account that I stream on and shit, I'm gonna have that in the description. Y'all go fuck with that account. I'm gonna be on there a lot, man. Y'all go fuck with that, no bullshit. But yeah, man, this the end of the video. In my next video, I'm probably gonna be getting a hand tap, bro. Not this hand, my other hand, but that shit gonna hurt. I'm gonna pull up a picture of what it's gonna look like right here. Oh, bro. Y'all fuck with that video.